You can count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there. And I know when I need it, I can count on you like 4, 3, 2, and you'll be there.
Well, hello, one more time, and thank God for one more time.
Yes.
This is Elizabeth, and we have Jake and Carl out in Los Angeles, and
Hi there.
it's
Hello.
me, God. Yeah, hello, you two.
Hello.
Missed you.
Yeah, missed you. You
Yeah.
had a big, kind of dramatic week last week, huh?
Yes, we did. Right after the show, in fact, I think it was right after the show. Well, no, it couldn't have been because Linda died on my birthday, which was September 6th. So she died on my birthday. And I'm glad that happened because now we can both share a birthday together, her new birth into a new life and my birthday here on this earth. And thank you for your wishes. You both sent, I know you did. Carl sent an email and Facebook, and I know, Jake, you were thinking about me too. So thank you very much for all that. We are together, one supporting one another in this world, a body of Christ. If the toe stays at home, the rest of the body will know it. And so, Carl, last week we talked about how to make a difference in a stranger's life and also how to recognize the gift of a stranger. And have you been practicing any of the things that we talked about?
Yeah. Well, I mentioned how even though I'm a person who's pretty big myself physically, I'm 6'2" or 3" and weigh about 325 pounds, some of that. And but there's how sometimes there's like a cliche that how people like black comics can joke about black people and so on and so on, and so fat people joke about fat people without any regret often, even though we should be more sympathetic to it. And internally, I don't do it much vocally, but internally in my head, I've always had a sort of a resentment of people that are way, way bigger than me because it draws inevitably stares to me also. Or, people roll their eyes when the bigger person, crowds the bus or whatever. So there was one guy in particular that I mentioned who always annoyed me for the past couple of years going down the main street in L.A., Wilshire, on the bus, and he'd come on and say, "Everybody, I need space," get on the bus and dislocate everybody. And I thought, what a jerk. And then I started noticing he was in my apartment building restaurant. And so I thought, he moved in. Turns out he didn't, but I was a completely different part of town about 2 weeks ago after we talked about this on the air. And middle of the night, about 10 o'clock in Beverly Hills, I'm waiting on a bus, and this giant shadow comes out of nowhere, and it's him. And he sits down next to me. He goes, "We have 23 minutes till the next bus." And I'm like looking up at the sky going, "Oh, Lord, Elizabeth did it again." And so I'm thinking 23 minutes, I got to talk to this guy. Great. So I start having a conversation with him. Turns out he's funny. He's incredibly smart. Worked 27 years in a law school library before being unfairly fired or laid off, whatever. And we wound up having an amazing conversation about transit scandals, all sorts of things. And it made me realize, once again, that you're right, that we cannot be judging people that we don't know, and that just a little conversation can wind up building a friendship. I got his card, and I forgot to give him a buzz. I gave him mine as well, but I definitely want to be in touch because he might actually be somebody that would be interesting to have on the radio, even with all his insights into crazy LA scandals on the transit system. Are you there?
Oh, did we lose her?
Wonderful.
Hold on.
Can
you hear us
me?
now? Now that's better.
Yeah, now we hear you. But I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't hear any comment yet.
Okay, well, the comment I was making was that I could just imagine the amount of insight to life that this man has. And it's going to lead right into our theme of our show today, which is the last 100 miles.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It really and I know the power of God is going to be in this show because right now I'm close to tears. But the reason I am is because of the fact that the last 100 miles, the reason this theme came up is we're traveling home from Ohio. It took us 16 hours to go up and 15 hours to come down And I remember thinking at the beginning of the trip coming home, every mile, a mile closer to home. Oh, I was so excited. We're on our way home finally. And every mile, I had the trip all written down as to what highway to get onto, 32, 24, 69 coming down through Indianapolis. And each one I considered a leg home. And so every time we went onto a new highway or a new number, another leg closer to home, another leg closer to home. I was so glad to be on a new leg coming home. But when we got closer to home, we dropped down through Branson and came down to Highway 412 before we got on Highway 21. And that's 70 miles away from home. It's about 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm driving. Bob is, we switched off, and I'm driving, and I'm wide awake and everything. It's starting to mist rain. It's dark. You're on a 2-lane highway. A 2-lane highway coming through mountains of the Ozarks, where about every mile you're going to hit at least 6 curve signs.
Oh, yeah.
Some of these curves are S-curves, 35 miles per hour. Some of them are 45-degree angle. They're not even curves. They look more like straight lines, a zigzag. And they're 30 to 25 miles per hour. And then there was about 3 or 4 where you had the steep grade. Be very careful. You're going to go through a C curve, do 20 miles per hour. And as I'm driving through this, and I'm seeing deer, and I'm going, what are you doing awake in the middle of the night? Get away from my car. There's at least 6 deer who want to cross in front of me in that course of the 70, 80 miles. And every time I'd see another curve sign, I'm going to mumble, grumble. And another curve sign, blah, 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 blah. About 50 miles down into closer to home, my bladder is now telling me, you might need to try to find a place to stop, but that ain't happening. There's nowhere to pull over in this isolated Highway 21 coming down through the mountain, and no way to pull over, period, in the sense that it's mountain.
Yeah.
So I'm grumbling and shifting around, trying to get comfortable. And about this time, the Holy Spirit comes in with, are those curve signs disappearing because you're doing this mumbling and grumbling? And I'm going, nope, they're not. And thank you for coming in and getting in here in my thoughts. And then that's about the time that the Lord was giving me a reflection on the last 100 miles being the same as stages of our life. I'm 67 now. Probably on my last 100 miles in life. I don't know how many years that is, but definitely feels like the last 100 miles. Where you're going to have more obstacles, more breakdowns, more unavoidable weather encounters. Like I said, it was raining, misty rain, not heavy rain, thank God. You're going to have leaky radiators, faulty exhaust systems, creaking and stiffening shocks and struts that makes the ride more jarring. You're going to have dimmer lights.
Yeah.
And, you're just a lot of things. You're going to have more slowdowns for curves or detours that are unexpected. The last years are going to be more difficult and unpleasant. So but it doesn't even have to be the last years. You take your life right now and the stage of your life that you're in, you're finding all these same things, encountering all these same things. So how do you handle these journeys, these stages of life? First of all, when you start to take a trip, what do you do?
Well,
Celine?
You're
planning a
make
real
a plan.
trip.
You make a plan, you pack your bags, you check your
look at the map.
budget.
You plan, definitely.
Yeah.
And map it out. You need to know where you're going before you even start out, correct?
Yep.
Right. So what happens if you don't plan, if you don't even know where you're going when you start out? You get on the wrong bus, Carl?
Oh, yeah. Did I ever tell you about that? Did I ever tell you about the time I got on the wrong, this is short, but I actually got on literally the wrong bus to the wrong city and had to make a bus filled. I was taking a super cheap bus tour right after Christmas one year, about 5 years ago, and and I didn't realize that it was a Chinese-run company. I was the one Caucasian, non-Chinese guy on the whole bus, surrounded by 100 other people, and I managed to get on the wrong bus because nobody knew how to tell me which one to get on, and I figured out on the way over that I was... once they started making announcements, I hear San Francisco, and everybody's cheering, and then I'm like, wait, I'm supposed to go to the Grand Canyon, and they had to, and we were just on the highway, and I'm screaming, no, and so they had to turn around and call an entire other bus back also.
We call that another episode of Carl.
Yes. Yes, I went to the Grand Canyon in Las Vegas with a completely 100 Chinese people who didn't speak English except for sporadically the announcer.
Now, Carl, do you realize what God goes through to make sure that you have plenty of material for your comic book?
Honestly.
I know, right?
He so loves you, Carl.
Every time he gets angry about this stuff, I'm like, Carl, you're writing this down, right? You're writing it down.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
Really. And that's what this is where we're headed with this whole thing here.
My 100-mile journey, I hope I wind up going where I want to go, not, boy, I better not wind up in the wrong place on the way out of here.
I find what the universe has in store for us ends up way more interesting than any of the other plans I made.
Yeah.
Oh, good gosh, yes.
Yes,
indeed.
Anyway, so you were talking about plans. Sorry about that.
Okay, that's okay. So, number one, we definitely need to be prepared, take along what we need, pack what we need. And that was interesting before Bob and I got into a pretty big fight after he found out that Linda had passed. And he was talking to him and he says, yeah, we're coming up. And I said, tell him we'll be up Sunday. This was Saturday about 12 noon our time. And then he comes into the room, why can't we go right now? And I'm going, Bob. And I'm, come on, Bob. But he's dealing with the death of his sister, the only sister he had. So his emotions are really way up there. And he doesn't, he's not remembering that, it takes 2 to 3 hours to get everything together and out in the car. And I said, Bob, if we were to leave right now, we'd come into their town in the middle of the night, waking people up. And this is not a wise thing to do. But he's, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, comes something that's evidently been bothering him for a long time. When his mother was dying and on her deathbed, he had to come with another person to down to Columbus or Cincinnati. I forget where. They had to come to pick me up at the airport because Teresa and her family had driven up with us. They wanted to go up to be with Mom as she was dying. And then we had to drive all the way back to Texas. We picked up her children on the way. That was another story of a journey you would not believe. A van made for 7 and 8 were in it, all the way from Georgia to Texas. And when you weren't driving, you were sitting in the back seat trying to find a place to sit on the floorboard. Oh, what a trip, what a trip. And I was dealing also at that time with the fact that I was having problems with my gallbladder, facing gallbladder surgery, which I later did have that year. But we're doing all of this, and I'm flying back from Texas up to Ohio, and he has to come get me. Well, while he's coming to get me, his mother dies. And all these years, she's been going quite a while, all these years he's got that resentment inside. I wasn't there. And he blows this out at me. I didn't get to be with my mother, and you did. Wrong. I was never with any of my family members when they died. But anyhow, I'm going, you got to be kidding me. This mother who you have complained about for so long of being too dominating, too controlling, and you never listen to you, and you can never tell her anything, and you've had all this resentment in your life toward her, and all of a sudden, I'm not there when she dies. You got to be kidding me. So anyhow, when people die, the emotions of the family come to a head like you do not believe. And I know every one of you know this to be true because you've all experienced it. And families get into more arguments and fights, and this should be done this way, that way, and so forth and so on. But anyhow, back to our stories. You got to plan the trip, and so we you have to know exactly where you're going. You've got to get the map out. Now you got the GPS, and it makes it a little easier if your GPS system actually works.